A little home with my child. The morning sun filtered gently through the thin, pale curtains, painting soft golden patterns across the small but tidy living room. Anna, just past her 30th birthday, moved quietly in the kitchen, careful not to wake the little boy still lingering in his dreams in the next room. Every morning, she took solace in these quiet moments, stirring oatmeal on the stove, breathing in the promise of another day with her son, Liam. Anna's apartment was modest, a 2-bedroom nest on the outskirts of the city, but for her, it was a haven. Photographs and hand-drawn pictures from Liam adorned the refrigerator, a testament to their journey together. She had painted the walls herself after the divorce, choosing bright, gentle colors meant to soothe. Despite the absence of luxury, everything in their little home spoke of care and resilience. Each day began with simple rituals, packing Liam's backpack for school, tucking a handwritten note inside, just a line or a doodle to remind him he was loved. At breakfast, they sat together, Anna listening patiently as Liam recounted his dreams and offered his opinions on everything from dinosaurs to the best superhero. Though their mornings were rushed, there was always time for one last hug at the door, a promise to see each other again in the afternoon. Life as a single mother had never been part of Anna's plan. When the divorce happened, it left scars, fear, uncertainty, and an ache she could barely admit, even to herself. She had worried, in those lonely first weeks, how she would manage jobs and bills and parenting, whether their life would ever feel normal again. Yet, in the years that followed, Anna discovered her own quiet strength. She learned to repair a leaky faucet, to negotiate with the landlord, to stretch every dollar, and above all, to cherish the laughter and moments of calm between the storms. For Liam, home was wherever his mother was. He never knew want or bitterness. At least, Anna tried to shield him from sadness. They had their routines, movie nights on Fridays with popcorn, weekend walks in the park, reading together before bed. Anna relished the weight of Liam's head on her shoulder as he drifted to sleep, the peace of knowing that even in a world sometimes filled with uncertainty, their little home was a safe harbor. Despite the warmth of their bond, Anna could not forget the shadow that lingered, the absence of Liam's father. Sometimes questions surfaced. Why doesn't Daddy live with us anymore? Anna answered gently, honestly, but always with compassion, never poisoning her son's heart with bitterness. She knew Liam needed love, simple, unconditional love, more than any explanation. As the first chapter of their story unfolds, Anna's courage is quiet but unwavering. She finds fulfillment not in grand gestures or material things, but in the shared smiles, whispered goodnights, and victories, small and large, that she wins for herself and her child each day. Their home, though humble, radiates a sense of hope that cannot be dimmed. Anna may not have everything, but she has what matters most: the love between a mother and her son, a love that will anchor them in the trials ahead. Storms descend. The gentle rhythm of Anna and Liam's everyday life was disrupted without warning, like a sudden downpour on a sunny afternoon. It began with a knock at the door one weekend morning, firm, insistent, echoing in their small apartment until Anna surrendered, wiping flour from her hands as she left Liam coloring quietly in the living room. Standing on the threshold were faces she recognized with uneasy familiarity. Her former mother-in-law, stern and severe. Her ex-husband's younger sister, arms crossed, eyes appraising, and behind them, a family lawyer she had never met but instantly distrusted. The air turned thick with unspoken grievances as Anna let them in, her heart pounding with dread. From that point, the peaceful order she'd worked so hard to build began to unravel. The conversation that followed was clipped and formal, the visitors making polite inquiries about Liam's well-being before allowing a sense of accusation to seep into their voices. "We're concerned about his environment," her mother-in-law said with feigned sweetness. "You must be exhausted. Raising a child alone is so difficult. Are you sure you can manage on your own?" Anna recognized the coded language, knew the offer of help was anything but generous. The conversation quickly escalated, her ex-husband's family pointing out every perceived shortcoming. Small apartment, limited income, her busy schedule as she juggled multiple part-time jobs. The atmosphere thickened with tension as Anna tried to remain calm, protecting Liam both physically and emotionally from the charged words swirling in the room. Over the days that followed, their intrusions became more frequent and pointed. Her ex-husband called unexpectedly, questioning Anna's decisions about Liam's schooling and nutrition. The family showed up unannounced at Liam's soccer games, watching her every move. Whispers spread among other parents at school, subtle but enough for Anna to sense herself becoming an outsider in her own community. At home, Anna tried to shield Liam from the mounting pressure, but there were moments she couldn't hide her worry. Some nights, after Liam had fallen asleep, she sat at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped around a mug of tea gone cold, replaying every conversation in her head. Doubt gnawed at her. Was she truly doing enough for her son? Could love alone protect him from the storm brewing outside their door? The real blow came through official channels. A letter arrived, heavy with legal jargon. Her ex-husband's family had filed for custody, questioning Anna's fitness as a mother and proposing that Liam would be better off under their care. The language was clinical, but the intent was clear. Her suitability was now being challenged not only in hushed whispers and veiled comments, but in court. Reeling, Anna faced a new, unfamiliar kind of fear. Suddenly, every small detail of their life became ammunition. Every late payment, every hurried dinner, every tired morning when she dropped Liam to school. What had felt like a safe, loving home was now exposed to scrutiny and judgment. The privacy she had guarded so fiercely seemed to dissolve overnight. Through it all, Anna clung to the rituals that had anchored their days. She read to Liam as always, laughed at his jokes, and squeezed his hand just a little tighter on the walk to school. But beneath the surface, anxiety and apprehension churned relentlessly. The storm had arrived on her doorstep, threatening to sweep away everything she had sacrificed for. In the looming shadow of uncertainty, Anna resolved to fight. Not just for her rights as a parent, but for the world she and Liam had so carefully built. For the first time, she realized that the battle was no longer just about being a good mother in the quiet moments, but about standing up bravely when forces beyond her control threatened to take her child away. The storm had come, and she would have to weather it with every bit of strength she possessed. Sinister schemes. As the initial shock from the custody lawsuit settled, Anna began to sense a deeper, far more malicious undercurrent beneath her former in-laws' actions. What had started as veiled accusations and intrusive visits gradually morphed into a relentless campaign designed to undermine her at every turn. The family that once expressed concern for Liam's well-being now seemed determined to paint Anna as an unfit mother by any means necessary, even if it meant resorting to deception. Small, unsettling signs began to appear. Rumors, subtle at first, started to circulate among parents at Liam's school and in their apartment complex. Neighbors who once exchanged warm greetings now offered little more than tight smiles, while some avoided Anna altogether. Ms. Nguyen from across the hall, who had once gladly watched Liam in emergencies, now made flimsy excuses and kept her distance. Anna sensed something was wrong, but the source of these shifting attitudes remained maddeningly opaque. The truth emerged one Friday afternoon in a conversation with the school principal. Summoned to her office under the pretense of discussing Liam's home environment, Anna listened in disbelief as vague but damaging allegations were repeated. Liam left alone for hours, meals skipped, neglectful behavior, and even claims that Anna hosted loud, disruptive gatherings. Anna's attempts to defend herself were met with polite skepticism and reminders that other parents are worried. The gravity of the situation settled in. Someone was deliberately poisoning her reputation. If the rumors were mere whispers meant to isolate her, socially, what followed was a calculated assault on her credibility in the eyes of the law. Anna was served with a new round of documentation from her ex-husband's family's attorney. This time, attached were photographs she had never seen. Pictures of a messy kitchen supposedly taken at her home, images of Liam with bruises on his knee from a playground fall, annotated as possible signs of neglect. There were also alleged written statements from concerned neighbors and community members describing reckless parenting and frequent absences, none of which had any basis in reality. Distraught, Anna racked her memory, haunted by the possibility that her every move had been monitored or twisted out of context. Had someone followed her, waited for moments of vulnerability, or perhaps even staged the mess they photographed? She realized with sickening clarity that the opposition was not simply contesting custody. They aimed to destroy her reputation entirely. Her worry extended to her son. Liam, once carefree, now sensed his mother's tension, clinging to her more at bedtime and asking if she was angry or sad. Anna fought to maintain a sense of normalcy, singing their bedtime songs and reading storybooks, even as she spent her own sleepless nights combing through every accusation, trying to imagine how it might sound in a courtroom full of strangers. The most devastating blow came when Anna was approached at the grocery store by an old friend who whispered that stories about her had been spreading through their mutual circles. Anna was struggling, unstable, maybe even dangerous to her own child. Anna's pleas for understanding were met with wary glances, her word against the growing tide of false evidence and malicious gossip. Each day became a struggle not just for survival, but for dignity. She withdrew from neighborhood gatherings, braced herself for hostile stares at school, and wondered if there was anyone left who truly believed in her. The isolation pressed heavily on Anna, breeding both fear and a rising determination not to let the lies triumph. It was in this darkness that Anna's resolve began to crystallize. Gutted by betrayal and injustice, she resolved to unearth the truth behind the forgeries and fabrications. She started documenting every interaction, careful to save messages and receipts, determined to build a record of her own. Anna reached out, hesitantly at first, to a few trusted friends, hoping someone might stand witness for her character. Through humiliation and heartbreak, Anna clung to her love for Liam and the conviction that their bond, forged in kindness and sacrifice, could not be so easily swept away by conspiracy. Though battered by the storm of slander, she would not submit. This time, Anna vowed, the truth would not just set her free, it would defend her right to be a mother. And in the face of such sinister schemes, she would fight with the quiet ferocity that only a parent, wrongly accused, could summon. Losing custody. The day Anna dreaded arrived, dressed in gray and heavy with silence. A low cloud cover seemed to press against the city, its weight echoing the ache in her chest. Anna rose before dawn, pushing herself through the motions of the morning routine, even though every movement felt mechanical and hollow. She carefully brushed Liam's hair, straightened the collar on his shirt, and poured him a glass of milk, her smile brittle around the edges. As he recounted a dream about dinosaurs, his voice innocent and unburdened, Anna couldn't bear to tell him that the day ahead would change their lives forever. The custody hearing had consumed her thoughts for weeks. Each night, she would replay the arguments and the evidence, searching for hope in the maze of legal jargon and conflicting testimonies. Her attorney had been sympathetic, but honest. The tidal wave of fabricated evidence, the relentless campaign to sabotage Anna's character, and the testimonies, however false, from neighbors turned accusers, had created a narrative nearly impossible to refute in the eyes of the court. Logic and truth seemed powerless against the well-orchestrated onslaught of lies. Arriving at the courthouse, Anna's hands shook with nerves she tried to conceal. Liam's small hand nestled into hers, a comforting weight that nearly made her knees buckle. Her ex-husband's family stood in the hallway, projecting confidence and concern in equal measure. Anna wondered, not for the first time, if any trace of real empathy remained behind their hardened eyes. The family lawyer, all crisp efficiency and smug confidence, flipped through papers, barely acknowledging Anna's presence. Inside the courtroom, everything felt foreign and cold. The white walls reverberated with a sterile energy. The smell of disinfectant mixed with old paper and anxious sweat. Anna's gaze flicked to the judge, searching for traces of humanity in his lined face and measured voice. She tried to focus on Liam in her lap, tracing small circles on his palm just to hold on to something real. The proceedings themselves blended into a haze. A parade of witnesses repeating half-truths, neighbors describing incidents Anna couldn't remember. Expert opinions twisted out of context. The lawyer for her ex-husband's family presented a thick stack of photographs and typed statements. Anna could only bite her tongue, her own protests drowned out by the relentless narrative being spun against her. Her attorney spoke on her behalf, presenting receipts, time-stamped messages, and testimonies from her co-workers and a few loyal friends. Anna squeezed Liam's hand, willing the judge to see beyond the surface, to recognize the web of deceit cast around them. But as the questioning continued, Anna felt herself shrinking under layers of implication and doubt, her voice stripped of its power. Finally, the judge announced a short recess to review the evidence. Anna led Liam to a quiet corner just outside the courtroom. She tried to explain, gently, that there might be new arrangements for his living situation. "Will you come with me, Mommy?" he asked, his eyes searching hers, wide and worried. Anna blinked away tears and hugged him tightly. "No matter what happens, I love you more than anything," she whispered, trying not to let him see her heart cracking open. When the court reassembled, time slowed. The judge's voice cut crisply through the tension. He commended Anna's devotion, acknowledged her years of sacrifice, but concluded, based on the collected testimonies and evidence, that a change in custody served the best interests of the child. Liam was to live with his paternal grandparents and father, at least until further review. For a moment, Anna couldn't process the words. The world seemed to tilt under her, the edges of her vision warping with disbelief. She noticed the quick, victorious exchange of glances between her ex-husband's family. Her own attorney squeezed her shoulder, murmuring something she couldn't hear. Liam turned toward her, confusion and fear warring in his eyes. The wrenching goodbye came quickly, clinical and unyielding. Anna knelt on the courthouse steps, folding Liam into her arms, trying to etch the feeling of his skin, the scent of his hair, into her memory. "I'll see you soon. Be brave for me, sweetheart," she managed, forcing steadiness into her voice. She pressed a small, handwritten note, just a heart and his initials, into his palm. The social worker who escorted Liam away was gentle but firm. Her touch on Anna's shoulder meant to comfort, though it stung more than soothed. After they left, Anna sat frozen, one hand still extended in the space where Liam had been. Around her, the world droned on, the shuffle of feet, the murmur of other families, the sharp click of the judge's gavel calling the next case. Anna knew she must rise, but her limbs felt numb, cemented by pain. Outside, the gray afternoon pressed in, rain beating on the courthouse windows like tears refusing to fall. The days that followed blurred into one endless ache. The apartment, stripped of Liam's laughter, became a cradle for her grief. His toys sat where he'd left them, tiny shoes by the door, a stray crayon under the table. Anna moved through the rooms, haunted by memories. Storytime snuggles, tickle fights, whispered goodnights. She tried to sleep but would awaken, reaching for a child who wasn't there. She felt guilty for every imperfection, every moment of exhaustion, every time she'd served macaroni and cheese instead of cooking something from scratch, every night she'd fallen asleep before checking Liam's homework. Doubt gnawed away at her, feeding off the accusations that had won in court. Had she failed her son? The questions circled endlessly in her mind. Friends called, some out of genuine care, others only to satisfy curiosity. But Anna rarely answered. She found herself withdrawing into a shell, avoiding the outside world. The humiliation of losing in court and the hollow judgment of strangers weighed on her soul. At the grocery store, she bristled at the sympathetic stares, or worse, felt judged by eyes that believed the lies told about her. Each night, she wrote letters to Liam that she couldn't send, filling page after page with reassurances, small stories about her day, and memories of their rituals. She tucked each letter into a box beneath her bed, a growing archive of love and longing. Sometimes she played their favorite lullaby on her phone, letting the melody fill the empty rooms. Other times, she clung to the faint hope that someone, somewhere, might believe her. That truth would outlast lies. Still, beneath the pain, a fragile ember of resolve remained. Anna forced herself to get out of bed, to eat, to keep the apartment tidy. She stared at the court documents each morning, not to torment herself, but as a silent pledge. She promised Liam and herself that she wouldn't give up. She knew surrender would make the accusations true. Only by standing up could she begin to reclaim what had been stolen. Rain continued to fall in fits and starts through that long, empty week, but Anna refused to let the darkness take root in her heart. She started collecting her thoughts, making lists of what went wrong, searching for cracks in the case that took her child away. While the pain ran deep, it awakened something fierce within her. A conviction that, however lonely the battle, she would fight for her son and for justice. And so, day by day, Anna began to contemplate the long road ahead, a journey not just to bring Liam home, but to prove to the world and to herself that a mother's love cannot be erased by injustice. Rising from defeat. The first days after losing custody passed in a muted haze for Anna. Grief held her in its jaws. Time seemed slower. Food lost its taste, and even the sunlight that spilled across her bedroom floor felt distant and cold. She existed in the quiet limbo of her empty apartment, where the echo of Liam's laughter haunted the silent rooms and every small belonging. A toy car, a scribbled note, a superhero sticker, served as a cruel reminder of absence. At first, Anna gave in to a sorrow so complete it left her exhausted. She cried alone, lingering in Liam's room on sleepless nights, tracing the outline of his pillow with trembling fingers. She berated herself for every perceived shortcoming that had led them here. If only she'd pushed back harder in court, built more alliances, anticipated the deceptions. Despair felt bottomless, engulfing her in wave after wave of regret. Yet beneath the surface, Anna sensed something stirring, a stubborn ember that refused to be snuffed out. With each day, the memory of Liam's trusting smile and his whispered, "I love you, Mommy," fueled a growing need not just to survive, but to fight. She realized that surrender would confirm every lie told about her in that sterile courtroom. As much as she longed to hold her son, Anna recognized she needed to restore her own dignity before she could ever hope to bring him home. Gradually, Anna began to reclaim her strength, one small act at a time. She forced herself out of bed for early morning walks, circling the city park as the world woke up, breathing in the crisp air, watching joggers and dogs and parents with strollers pass by. Each familiar sight bruised her heart, but it also reminded her she was not invisible, not finished. She resumed journaling, something she hadn't done in years, pouring her guilt and anger and hope into ink, sometimes writing pages before breakfast. Anna grew determined to clear her name, casting off humiliation's weight. Her first step was to gather her battered spirit, seeking support from people she once hesitated to trouble with her burdens. She called Olivia, a friend from her old office who had always believed in her. Teary but resolute, Anna shared everything: the lies, the isolation, and her desperation to keep fighting. Olivia listened, then squeezed Anna's hand over coffee and declared, "You'll never do this alone. Whatever you need." With courage solidifying, Anna made an appointment to consult a new attorney. This time, she arrived prepared, not just with stacks of legal papers and printed emails, but also with a newfound clarity about what she was up against. She explained the web of deceit spun by her ex-husband's family, the doctored evidence, and the subtle intimidation she'd endured. The attorney, Ms. Ramirez, was calm and sharp-eyed. "We'll need to build our own case," Ms. Ramirez said. "Document everything, find witnesses, gather proof. If there's a lie, we'll uncover it." Anna took those words to heart. Her apartment became a project center and a war room. She made lists of potential allies, old co-workers, teachers, fellow parents, anyone who had seen her care for Liam and could give honest testimony. She dug through files for receipts showing where she'd spent evenings, snapped photos of the clean and welcoming home she'd made, and organized every communication with her ex-husband's family. Everything went into color-coded folders, each tab a tiny assertion of control in a world that had felt so arbitrary and unfair. Meanwhile, Anna sought strength in the voices of those who had weathered storms before her. She read memoirs written by single mothers, stories of women who had survived and thrived despite injustice. Some afternoons, she lost herself in online forums, sharing her own heartache and determination with strangers fighting similar battles. When discouragement threatened to overwhelm her, on nights when the courtroom's echo seemed especially loud, Anna reminded herself that the road to justice was rarely straight and never easy. Realizing her fight extended beyond the courtroom, Anna also turned to organizations supporting women in contentious custody cases. After extensive searches and phone calls, each one demanding courage, she found a nonprofit legal advocacy group specializing in helping parents wrongfully stripped of their rights. The contact person, a warm-voiced advocate named Carla, responded with empathy and practical advice. "You're not alone, Anna. We've seen families go through this. We'll help you find the right resources and stand as character witnesses if you need it." Slowly, Anna pieced together fragments of her confidence. Some days were better than others. On good mornings, she ran errands with purpose, letting herself envision a future where she might run into Liam by chance, at the playground, perhaps, or the library. On difficult ones, she allowed herself moments of sadness, but always ended the day by writing a letter to her son, promising him, promising herself, that she would bring him home again. Word of Anna's determination began to ripple through her network. A teacher from Liam's school, previously silent, reached out to say she'd noticed nothing but care and patience in Anna's interactions with her son. Another neighbor approached Anna one evening and quietly admitted he'd never believed the damaging gossip. "If you need someone to speak up for you, I will," he said with a nod. Each show of support felt like a small beam of light breaking up the fog. Anna also found practical ways to strengthen her case. She signed up to volunteer at Liam's old school's events, helping with book drives and bake sales, creating opportunities to be seen by other parents and staff. She started attending support groups for single parents, building real friendships and inviting trusted people into her life who could vouch for her commitment and stability. Every conversation, every connection, became a brick in the foundation she was rebuilding. Even as she amassed evidence and support, Anna forced herself to confront painful questions. She reviewed court records late into many nights, searching for inconsistencies and points left unchallenged. She began practicing what she would say if called to testify again, rehearsing her answers aloud, determined to ensure her voice would finally be heard. Her determination, once fueled by sorrow, was now galvanized by a belief in her own truth. Through the window of her living room, Anna watched the seasons shift, the tail end of summer fading, the first golden leaves of autumn falling. Grief still visited, especially on weekends when the emptiness of Liam's absence seemed especially loud. But gradually, the edge softened, replaced by a sense of purpose that grew stronger each day. By the time the first chill of winter crept into the air, Anna no longer recognized the woman who had crumbled in the shadow of defeat. In her place stood someone changed by adversity, a mother willing to fight for justice, no matter how long the odds. Anna understood there would be setbacks and moments when hope would flicker, but she also knew, deep in her soul, that defeat would not define her. Her son deserved the truth, and so did she. And as Anna zipped a new folder into her growing collection of evidence and dried the last of her tears for the night, she whispered into the darkness, steady, unwavering, "I am not finished. I will bring you home." With those words, the next chapter of her battle began, not as a victim of injustice, but as a mother rising, stronger and more determined than ever. The grueling legal battle. If Anna's first experience in court had left her shaken, what followed was a true test of endurance and resolve. With the initial verdict against her, Anna was thrust into the heart of the legal system, a place where justice and truth so often seemed at odds with procedure and power. The custody battle became her daily reality, coloring her every thought and action with an undercurrent of tension. Every week, Anna and her new attorney, Ms. Ramirez, pored over documents late into the evenings. Anna's small apartment filled with files, color-coded binders, and meticulously organized folders. There were call logs, time-stamped videos, expense receipts, home maintenance records, copies of emails with teachers and healthcare providers, every scrap of evidence she could marshal to prove her stability, her devotion, and most fundamentally, her innocence. The process was relentless. Anna relived again and again the humiliations of the first trial. She re-examined her life from every angle, anticipating the narratives her ex-husband's family would construct out of the smallest of her missteps. Each week brought new demands from the opposing attorneys, requests for journals, telephone bills, even Liam's artwork, any piece of her life that could be pored over, twisted, and potentially used against her. Meanwhile, her opponents were not idle. Anna's ex-husband's family grew ever more aggressive, emboldened by their success in separating Anna from Liam. They continued to buy influence in subtle and unsubtle ways, donating funds to school programs, ingratiating themselves with parent groups, sending platters of food to teachers' lounges with handwritten cards. Anna understood the game. Her credibility, both as a mother and as a member of the community, was under siege from every side. Some nights, Anna found herself overwhelmed by anger, not just at them, but at the system that made such tactics possible. She saw how wealth and connections could bend the structures of power, how easy it was for rumor to masquerade as truth when money and malice joined hands. There were times, in the stillness before dawn, when she wondered if fighting was futile. But even in her darkest moments, Anna refused to quit. She invested in herself as fiercely as she did in her legal case. She built a schedule, therapy appointments to rebuild her confidence, volunteer shifts at the local library, parenting classes she did not strictly need but attended anyway. Watched closely by those who now understood, she would leave nothing unchallenged. Anna became meticulous, even obsessive, about keeping records. She kept daily journals, documenting her thoughts, interactions, and every tiny victory. A compliment from a teacher, a smile from a neighbor, a moment she didn't collapse under pressure. Ms. Ramirez encouraged Anna to stay active in Liam's life, however limited her access might be. On supervised visits, Anna brought sketchbooks and storybooks, doing her best to make the sterile rooms feel warm and fun. She smiled through the pain, hiding tears as she listened to Liam's hopes and worries. Anna clung to these visits, drawing purpose and resolve from each brief embrace, every whispered, "I miss you, Mommy." As the legal case gathered momentum, Anna's circle of support began to expand. The advocacy group connected her with mothers who had survived similar ordeals. They gave advice on cross-examinations, shared sample affidavits, and offered a sympathetic ear. Olivia, steadfast as ever, coordinated letters of support from Anna's old colleagues and organized carpool runs on the days Anna's stress made even banal errands seem insurmountable. Gradually, cracks appeared in the story that had painted Anna as an unfit mother. A neighbor came forward to say they had never seen Liam left alone. The school guidance counselor admitted privately that many of the damning rumors were spread by people with close ties to Anna's in-laws. These statements were gathered, notarized, and delivered to Ms. Ramirez, who wove them into a counter-narrative, a chain of evidence exposing the campaign to distort the truth. Court appearances morphed from single traumatic events into an ongoing series of battles. Each session was a study in endurance. The opposition's attorney would try to provoke Anna, displaying photos of Liam's scraped knees or clutter in her kitchen, questioning whether she was fit to handle the pressures of parenthood. Anna's hands often trembled as she took the stand, but with coaching and grit, she learned to speak steadily, framing each answer around love, intention, and context the opposition desperately tried to omit. The judge, once distant and clipped, began to take notice of the discrepancies. Why did the dates on certain neighbor complaints coincide with days Anna could prove she was volunteering at school? Why did so many of the allegations lack direct witnesses? Ms. Ramirez pressed these questions, working methodically to unravel the false testimony. Despite the slow progress, setbacks were common and devastating. A motion to dismiss the custody claim was denied. One potential witness declined to testify for fear of reprisals. Anna's own financial situation strained under the weight of legal bills. She sold jewelry she had inherited from her grandmother to cover another retainer and canceled her streaming service to save every possible dollar. Yet, amid the grind, hope began to seep back in. Anna now entered courtrooms with her shoulders straighter and her gaze level. She dressed with purpose, projecting competence and clarity. The once lonely mother who cowered on the courthouse steps was gone. In her place stood a woman who refused to be erased by injustice. One afternoon, in the middle of cross-examination, Ms. Ramirez presented fresh evidence, a video inadvertently recorded by a neighbor's security system that showed Liam safely in Anna's apartment. At times the opposition insisted he'd been left unsupervised. The video was small, merely capturing Liam giggling at a cartoon, but it was proof. The court's tone shifted. Now, each fact offered by Anna's accusers was scrutinized more closely. Anna spent long nights preparing. She memorized legal terms and precedents, anticipated questions she might face, and rehearsed telling her story without letting emotion take away her clarity. She stopped apologizing for her exhaustion, for her grief, for her brokenness. Instead, she named them for what they were: parts of a mother's fight. Evenings were not all consumed by court strategy. Sometimes Anna allowed herself joy, watching old movies, playing Scrabble with friends, or baking a pie to share with Olivia's family. These small moments grounded her, gave her courage, and reminded her of the life she was fighting to reclaim. As the court scheduled the next round of hearings, Anna knew the ordeal was not close to ending. But she was changed. Where once she felt only victimhood, now she sensed a gathering defiance. The legal battle had battered her, but it had also forged in her an unbreakable purpose: to reveal the full truth, to clear her name, and above all, to bring her son home. The city lights shimmered beyond Anna's window as she tucked another stack of evidence into her files. She took a deep breath, steady and sure, and whispered into the silver hush of evening, "I am still here." The war for Liam was not over. But now, Anna met each dawn ready, for justice did not belong only to the powerful. Sometimes, against the odds, it also belonged to a mother who refused to let her love become a casualty of lies. Exposing the lies. Victory in a legal battle never arrives suddenly. For Anna, the process of vindication was neither swift nor simple, but a grueling unraveling, a steady, courageous push to make the truth impossible to ignore. After months immersed in paperwork, second-guessing every move, and tightening her circle of allies, Anna's efforts began to pay off. Piece by piece, the falsehoods woven so carefully by her opponents started to come undone. It began not with a loud revelation, but with a hesitant phone call. Miss Nguyen from across the hall, once distant and wary, reached out late one evening. "I've been thinking," she said, her voice trembling, "about what happened last spring and what people are saying. I want to help." She confessed to being pressured by Anna's former in-laws to sign a statement she knew wasn't true. This simple admission opened a door that had seemed sealed shut. Anna, guided by her attorney, Ms. Ramirez, encouraged Ms. Nguyen to provide an affidavit recounting her experience with the family's intimidation tactics. Soon, other voices hesitantly joined. A young mother from Liam's school admitted she'd witnessed Anna's loving routines and never the neglect described. A retired couple from Anna's building recalled hearing Anna reading bedtime stories, not hosting wild parties. These testimonies gave Anna's camp a fuller narrative, one grounded in observable truth and braced by human conscience. Meanwhile, Miss Ramirez continued her meticulous work, scrutinizing every piece of so-called evidence. For every questionable photograph, she requested metadata and date verifications. One key image, purporting to show a filthy kitchen endangering Liam, was revealed, under scrutiny, to have been taken weeks earlier at a neighbor's apartment during a building-wide plumbing repair. The court, previously content to accept such evidence at face value, now began to cast a skeptical eye on the opposition's pile of accusations. As word spread that the case was being revisited, the cadence of gossip in the community shifted. Those who had whispered about Anna's supposed failings now hesitated, questioning the stories they had too easily believed. Some neighbors came forward to apologize for their silence. Anna, dignified in her relief, thanked each person sincerely, but made clear her first priority was restoring her son's place in her life. The pivotal moment came during an evidentiary hearing packed with supporters from both sides. The in-laws' attorney, long accustomed to shaping the narrative, faltered as Ms. Ramirez called witnesses who systematically dismantled the opposition's case. Ms. Nguyen described, this time, on record and under oath, how she had been approached repeatedly by Anna's ex-husband's family and offered incentives to misrepresent Anna as negligent. The atmosphere in the courtroom thickened as her words erased months of malicious rumors in a matter of minutes. Next, Ms. Ramirez presented a digital forensics expert who explained, in clear language, how timestamps had been manipulated on several critical photographs. The expert's testimony wasn't flashy, but it was irrefutable. The judge's expression, previously stoic, now registered concern as the extent of fabrication became apparent. But perhaps most moving was the parade of character witnesses who stood up for Anna. Teachers described classroom volunteer days when Anna had been present, contradicting the claims of absentee parenting. The school nurse recalled how Anna never missed a check-in if Liam was ill. Even Liam's soccer coach testified with warmth about Anna's dedication, recalling weekends when Anna prepared snack packs and organized rides for the team. Bit by bit, the foundation beneath the opposing case fractured. More than once, Anna's ex-husband's relatives appeared visibly anxious, whispering urgently amongst themselves as assumptions fell away. Their lawyer objected repeatedly, but the facts were now relentless, and the tide of the proceedings had turned. Throughout these tense weeks, Anna's internal world was a constant storm, hope colliding with years of anxiety and humiliation. At home, she crafted a new sort of ritual. Every night, she reflected on the day's victories and setbacks, promising herself that this long, hard road would be worth enduring. Olivia and Carla from the advocacy group became her lifelines. With every encouraging word, they reminded Anna that integrity would have the final say. As community sentiment shifted, so did the public discourse. An article appeared in the local paper, detailing the case in broad but sympathetic strokes, focusing on the dangers of false accusations and the resilience of single mothers. The social narrative began to recalibrate, not just to Anna's benefit, but in defense of fairness itself. Parents at school approached Anna with warmth that had vanished months before, and acts of kindness, notes of encouragement, offers to assist in court, became commonplace. The opposition, realizing their advantage was crumbling, tried to delay proceedings with new motions and challenges. Ms. Ramirez, tireless and sharp, parried each tactic. When Anna testified at last, she spoke steadily, her hands folded around a copy of one of Liam's bedtime notes. "I lost myself after the trial," she admitted, voice trembling. "But I never stopped believing the truth would survive. I am not perfect. I am a mother who loves her son, and I have never been what those lies claimed I was." Her words did not have the drama of a movie finale, but carried the weight of lived, exhausted truth. Friends in the gallery smiled through tears. Even the judge nodded slowly as he listened, a subtle, unmistakable sign that Anna, once invisible, was being seen. The following days saw the in-laws' attorney quietly remove several damning statements from the record after witnesses publicly recanted. An independent investigation was launched, spearheaded by the court, into potential perjury and witness tampering by members of the ex-husband's family. Anna's attorney cautioned her that resolution might yet take time, but Anna finally felt the rock of injustice shifting beneath her feet. For the first time in over a year, Anna allowed herself to imagine a real reunion, not just a supervised visit. She let hope into her heart, not fragile or desperate as before, but founded on the belief that dignity and perseverance could outlast even the most insidious lies. The fight was not just for Liam's homecoming. It was for her truth, for her integrity, and for every parent rendered voiceless by the shadows of deceit. And as the gavel fell to close the latest hearing, Anna exhaled. In that moment, her shoulders squared and her gaze was steady. The lies that had threatened to undo her life had finally been pulled, piece by piece, into the light. The battle was not over, but the dawn had broken, and for Anna, and for every mother like her, that light meant everything. Victory and reunion. The day that Anna had clung to in her dreams, sometimes desperately, sometimes with trembling hope, finally dawned. The city was wrapped in a gentle mist, the world feeling strangely suspended between sorrow and new promise. For months, Anna's life had been nothing but courtrooms, witness lists, legal arguments, and the silent ache of missing her child. Now, As she pulled on her best dress and smoothed her hair in the mirror, her reflection seemed older, but also somehow lighter, as though the years of struggle had been sanded into a new resilience. The courthouse felt different this time. Security guards nodded as she entered, a small encouragement she hadn't noticed before. In the hallway, Olivia squeezed her hand, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Anna felt the strength of her small army, her friends, her advocate Carla, the teachers and neighbors who had finally spoken the truth. As Ms. Ramirez joined her, organized and steadfast, Anna exhaled, releasing the collected anxieties of so many months. Inside, the courtroom was abuzz. Gone was the cold isolation Anna remembered from her loss. Now she saw friendly faces in the gallery and sensed a shift, a recognition of what was truly at stake and of the courage it had taken to come this far. The judge, stern but no longer indifferent, called order to the proceedings. Miss Ramirez spoke first. Her voice carried not only the details of the evidence but the moral clarity Anna herself felt burning inside her. One by one, the facts were laid bare. The manipulation of photographs, the perjury of witnesses, the intimidation tactics exposed. Ms. Ramirez reminded the court that Anna had never stopped fighting, not out of stubbornness, but fidelity to the truth and to a child's right to a loving, stable parent. The opposing attorney attempted a defense, but with less confidence than in previous hearings. Their arguments no longer landed. Their accusations now sounded hollow, even desperate. Anna watched, her heart pounding, as the judge scrutinized their words, visibly weighing what had truly occurred. Then came the testimony Anna had waited for. One by one, character witnesses stood. Miss Nguyen, no longer burdened by fear, recounted the kindness and vigilance she had always seen in Anna. The school principal described the positive changes in community after Anna's integrity came to light. Parents who felt safer, children who learned about standing up for fairness. Even Liam's pediatrician spoke, confirming that every injury had an innocent explanation, noting Anna's unfailing attention to her son's well-being. Each word mended a small part of Anna's wounded heart. Yet it was not the words alone, but the feeling in the room, the consensus that something malicious had been set in motion, but had finally run its course. Anna gazed at the judge, and for the first time, saw him consider her not just as a subject of scrutiny, but as a human being, a mother who had been terribly wronged. The judge's decision took little time. He spoke carefully, acknowledging both the pain of the past year and the lessons the entire courtroom could take from Anna's ordeal. What we have seen is not merely a mother defending her rights, he concluded, but a community and a system, tested by lies and redeemed by courage. It is the finding of this court that the custody of Liam shall be restored to his mother, Anna Thomas, effective immediately. Anna barely heard the gasps, the applause, or even the judge's gavel. The only sound that registered was her own heartbeat, wild in her chest, as tears rolled silently down her cheeks. Olivia hugged her. Carla squeezed her shoulders, and Ms. Ramirez smiled, a rare crack in her professional composure. But there was one step left. Anna was escorted to a small anteroom where Liam waited with a social worker. He looked up, eyes uncertain at first, then growing wide with wonder and relief. "Mommy?" he whispered, question and hope in his voice. Anna raced to him, collapsing to her knees as Liam leapt into her embrace. She felt his heartbeat against her own, his arms fierce around her neck. She didn't try to control her sobs. In that moment, all the legalities in the world vanished. there was only mother and son, reunited beyond words. They sat together on the bench, holding each other, as Anna whispered promises and apologies, love and hope into her son's hair. She traced the curve of his cheek, marveling at how he'd grown, how much she had missed. Liam, always so brave, told her he'd waited, that he'd kept the note she'd given him at the courthouse, reading it every night. When they finally emerged, hand in hand, it felt as if the entire world had shifted. Friends and supporters lined the corridor. Some cheered, some simply cried quiet tears of joy, but all bowed to the gravity of what Anna had reclaimed. Not just her child, but her dignity, her place in the world. The reunion was more than a private celebration. The story raced through their community, first whispered among parents in the playground, then carried by news outlets anxious to write their previously one-sided coverage. A feature in the city paper described Anna's courage and the extraordinary efforts it took to expose the injustice she'd suffered. Families facing their own silent battles found in her case a spark of hope, a reminder that sometimes, though rarely, the system can correct itself. Anna's reputation, once battered almost beyond repair, began to mend. The neighbors who'd shunned her now greeted her with genuine warmth. Invitations for playdates trickled in, teachers stopped by after school to catch up, and the grocery store cashier slipped Anna a folded note. "You're an inspiration." But the greatest healing took place at home. Anna and Liam rebuilt their rituals slowly. Movie nights returned, complete with popcorn and laughter. Each weekend, they picked a new adventure, sometimes just feeding ducks at the park, sometimes baking cookies together, or simply reading stories until they both drifted off on the couch. Each act was a quiet defiance of the months they had lost. And though the wounds would never fully vanish, Anna marveled at how hope took root again. She still kept the box of unsent letters beneath her bed, but one night, gathering her courage, she let Liam read some of them. Together, they wept, then laughed at the drawings and retold the jokes she'd scribbled in the margins. It became part of their new truth, a testament not of defeat, but of the love that never broke. While Anna knew some scars would linger, whispers of old rumors, a wary glance now and then, she stood taller, meeting the world's gaze. She saw in her son the fierce resilience they had forged together, and vowed quietly that their future, whatever storms might come, would be built on honesty and kindness. That night, as she tucked Liam into bed, Anna paused and watched him sleep, his chest rising and falling in the gentle rhythm of peace restored. Outside, the city lights glimmered, and in the quiet glow she knew, not every battle ends in victory, but sometimes the ones fought for love can change everything. Their home was whole again, not because justice had finally prevailed, but because hope and truth, fiercely guarded, had been enough to bring them there. A mother's strength. In the weeks and months following her triumphant reunion with Liam, Anna found herself at a crossroads she had never anticipated. The war for her son had irrevocably changed her, turning private pain into public courage, shattering illusions but welding them into something harder and brighter than hope. Strength born of survival. As the court's ruling echoed through the community, Anna discovered that her battle had become more than a personal victory. It was now a beacon for others, a symbol lighting the way for single mothers and wrongly accused parents everywhere. But first, there were consequences to settle. The legal investigation, launched in the wake of the custody reversal, was neither swift nor vengeful. Instead, it was thorough, quietly peeling back the layers of deceit that Anna's ex-husband's family had orchestrated. Over the course of several months, authorities uncovered a pattern of manipulated evidence, coerced statements, and witness tampering that extended well beyond Anna's own case. Miss Nguyen's bravery in coming forward became the fulcrum for this new inquiry. Her affidavit inspired others who felt pressured or intimidated to admit their role, often with remorse, in spreading falsehoods. The reckoning, when it came, was measured but just. Anna's former in-laws faced official charges for perjury and obstruction of justice. Those who had knowingly contributed to the smear campaign, motivated by family loyalty or self-preservation, received community service sentences or public admonishments. For the first time, the scales seemed to tip toward accountability, not simply for Anna's sake, but as public warning that such manipulation would not remain hidden. The outcome was not about revenge, Anna knew, but about restoring faith in a system that had failed her, and many others, so profoundly. Yet as the legal drama receded into the past, Anna's world was still filled with new and unexpected challenges. Her privacy, once defended so zealously, was suddenly a currency in high demand. Journalists reached out, community groups requested her presence at events, and other single mothers sent letters seeking advice or solidarity. At first, Anna hesitated, worried that revisiting her trauma publicly would reopen wounds still healing. But then, she remembered those nights, alone with nothing but unsent letters to Liam, praying that someone, somewhere, would hear her story and believe her. She understood now what it meant to give hope to the voiceless. Anna began, tentatively at first, to speak. At a local women's center, she shared her journey, the agony of defeat, the bone-deep exhaustion, and the tiny flickers of hope she'd nourished until they became a bonfire. She didn't sugarcoat the pain or promise easy answers. Instead, she spoke of the power of small, daily courage. Keeping records, seeking allies, refusing to surrender even when surrounded by lies. Mothers in the audience wept, not just for Anna, but for their own silent trials. In her story, they recognized pieces of themselves, their doubts, their fears, and above all, their untapped reservoirs of power. News of Anna's advocacy spread. She became an informal advisor to others navigating custody battles, answering panicked emails late at night, reviewing court documents for inconsistencies, coaching frightened parents through the first lonely steps of fighting back. Her apartment, once a bunker, became a gathering place, a community hub filled with laughter, coffee, children's toys, and the steady hum of rebuilding. Anna saw in the eyes of her visitors the same blend of hope and fear she had worn, and she made it her mission not to let anyone walk away empty-handed. Through all of this, Anna remained grounded by her bond with Liam. Parenting post-crisis brought fresh struggles but also profound joy. The small routines they re-established, packing lunches together, Saturday trips to the library, inventing silly bedtime stories, became acts of healing and celebration. Anna noticed, with growing pride, the ways Liam had changed. More cautious at first, but increasingly trusting, resilient, and optimistic. He spoke of his fears and his dreams, and Anna listened, knowing that by surviving her ordeal, she had taught her son the power of honesty and perseverance. Still, she never ignored the darker truths. Some wounds lingered, improbable friendships lost, a trace of suspicion in certain circles when her name was mentioned. Anna acknowledged those scars, refusing to pretend that vindication erased every hurt. Instead, she wove them into her story, reminders that trust, once broken, takes time to heal, but can be rebuilt, thread by thread, through kindness and consistency. As Anna's voice grew stronger, so did her influence. She joined a coalition advocating for family law reform, speaking at town halls about the dangers of unchecked rumor, procedural bias, and the need for better protections against malicious accusations. Her testimony was not that of a legal expert, but of a survivor, someone who had seen firsthand how quickly a loving parent could become a villain in the court of public opinion, and how daunting it was to claw one's way back to dignity and fairness. Anna's journey sparked ripple effects she couldn't have imagined. Judges took greater care scrutinizing evidence in contentious custody cases. Local schools implemented policies to prevent gossip from morphing into moral panic. Neighborhood groups organized workshops on digital literacy and the responsible use of social media, inspired by Anna's experience with doctored photos and viral misinformation. The story, once a tale of heartbreak, became a catalyst for meaningful change, one life's pain fueling the protection of many. Perhaps most transformative, however, was the change within Anna herself. She no longer defined her strength as the ability to bear suffering in silence, but as the courage to speak openly about adversity, to let vulnerability ignite connection, and to lead with relentless compassion. Her strength was not loud or dramatic. It was the patience to rebuild, the generosity to forgive, and the wisdom to help others rise even as she continued healing. One evening, after a talk at a local community center, a nervous young mother approached Anna and whispered, "If you survived all that, maybe I can too." Anna smiled, seeing herself in those hopeful eyes, and hugged her fiercely. That embrace, simple, wordless, reminded Anna that the most powerful legacy of her ordeal was not the court victory, not even the joyful reunion with her son, but the bright, unyielding belief she left in others. That even when the world breaks you, a mother's strength can stitch hope back together, for herself and for everyone watching. In the soft darkness of their apartment after Liam fell asleep, Anna often found herself reflecting on the improbable arc of her life. She had lost nearly everything, and then, through grit, love, and truth, she had reclaimed it all, reimagined and stronger. Looking at her son's peaceful face, she whispered a vow that stretched far beyond their walls. "I will never let fear or lies define us. We are not just survivors. We are proof that a mother's strength, once forged, can light a path for all who follow." And so, with every sunrise, Anna rose again, not as a victim, not solely as a mother, but as a symbol of courage that could weather any storm and inspire 1,000 new beginnings. A new future. The world looked different now. Not because the city itself had changed, its streets, its clamor, its rhythms, but because Anna saw it through new eyes. She and Liam stood quietly at the window of their apartment one golden morning, watching as sunlight painted the tops of the trees. All around them, the gentle routines of daily life resumed, but for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Anna greeted each day without fear lurking on the horizon. After the chaos and heartbreak, the hard-won peace felt fragile, almost surreal. At first, Anna found herself flinching at the ring of the phone or bracing herself whenever someone knocked at the door. Gradually, as weeks slipped into months, those instinctive reactions softened, replaced by a tentative faith. What had torn their world apart could no longer reach them so easily. Safety, Anna realized, was not about impenetrable walls or locked doors. It was about trust, reconstructed, moment by moment, as she and Liam built a life no one could take away. They set about crafting a new beginning, one stitch at a time. Anna started with her own heart. She went back to therapy not out of desperation, but as a gift to herself. There, she learned to understand the scars left by months of wariness and false accusations. Not to erase them, but to integrate the pain into the story of her strength. Some days were harder than others. A harsh word or a neighbor's passing glance might still trigger echoes of old anxiety. But Anna recognized these moments as evidence of how far they had come. Transforming their apartment into a home again became a ritual in itself. Liam wanted to paint his bedroom walls blue, like a racing car, and Anna let him choose the shade. Together, they replaced faded curtains and rearranged shelves. Family photos, once packed away out of sadness, reappeared on the fridge. On Friday evenings, they made pizza from scratch, letting the kitchen fill with laughter and the smell of garlic and cheese. As time passed, Anna reinvested in her own dreams. Having left her old job behind during the height of legal chaos, she began searching for new opportunities. It was not easy starting over, but Anna found courage in updating her resume, reaching out to former colleagues, and attending networking events. Each small act of professional renewal felt like a reclamation, proof that her skills and ambitions had not been erased by her ordeal. She took on a part-time project at a local nonprofit, helping other parents in crisis. The work was meaningful, the hours flexible, and above all, it reminded Anna that she had something to give the world beyond her own story. Liam's adjustment was its own bittersweet journey. The boy who had smiled through so much pain was guarded at first, clinging to Anna whenever she left the room. Little by little, though, the shadows faded. School became enjoyable again. He invited classmates for weekend playdates and joined the after-school soccer team. Anna attended every game, cheering from the sidelines, feeling a swelling pride every time Liam laughed or ran freely across the grass. There was a period of mutual reacquaintance, Anna learning about the subtle changes Liam had undergone during their separation, and Liam seeking assurance that Anna was truly, firmly there for him. They talked more, sometimes late into the night. Anna answered all his questions about the past with honesty, omitting bitterness but never hiding the truth. She wanted Liam to know that bad things could happen, but with love and persistence, even broken things could be made whole. Beyond the walls of their apartment, Anna discovered her place in the wider world had changed too. The story of her victory, once whispered gossip, now open conversation, made her a reluctant public figure in their neighborhood. She was greeted at the grocery store, thanked quietly at the library, and occasionally stopped by mothers she barely knew. These women, and sometimes fathers too, saw in her not just a survivor, but a champion of fairness. Anna responded with grace, always willing to listen, sometimes offering advice, sometimes just a word of encouragement. Liam's teachers took note as well. They often commented on his resilience and his renewed confidence. Anna was invited to speak at a parents' night about perseverance and community support, where she emphasized not only her own fight, but the collective strength required to pull a family through crisis. Her words resonated because they were real. Anna refused to paint herself as a martyr or hero, instead focusing on the universal need for empathy and the quiet, demanding work of rebuilding trust. As seasons shifted, Anna and Liam found themselves reaching for new goals. They made a list on a big piece of paper titled, "Our Dreams." Some were small, like learning to ride bikes together or growing a tomato plant on their windowsill. Some were big. Anna hoped to finish a certification to become a counselor for families in need, and Liam wanted to visit the aquarium in another city. What mattered most was not the completion of every dream, but the act of dreaming itself, a testament that hope had survived. On weekends, their adventures took them to parks, bookstores, and sometimes just long city walks for ice cream. Anna cherished these outings, embracing the freedom of having no court-imposed schedules, no looming deadlines for reports or supervised visits. She journaled faithfully, sometimes, about the anxiety that lingered, more often about the gratitude that now infused daily life. One sunny afternoon, as Anna and Liam lay side by side on the grass beneath a spreading oak, watching the clouds drift, Liam turned to her and asked, "Do you think we'll always be okay, Mommy?" Anna smiled, understanding the true meaning behind his words. "I know we will," she replied, pulling him close. "We're stronger than anything that tried to break us, and as long as we have each other, that will never change." Through this new chapter, Anna found beauty in uncertainty. She knew there would be stumbles and setbacks. No one emerged from a storm entirely unscathed. The strength she had forged would be tested again, in ways seen and unseen. But Anna met each challenge with a sense of calm determination. Now, when doubt crept in, she remembered long nights spent yearning for hope and all the love that pulled her through. Their apartment, filled with warmth and gentle chaos, became a gathering place for other families, a testament to openness and healing. On holidays, Anna invited neighbors who felt alone. She became a mentor to mothers embarking on their own journeys through the family court system, sharing resources and steady encouragement. Through giving, she found herself healed again and again. As Anna tucked Liam into bed one spring night, sunlight fading in streaks across his windowsill, she paused to marvel at their journey. The fragile, fierce, unexpected path they had traveled, and the future, wide open, that lay ahead. In the quiet of their home, Anna understood. The pain of the past was real, and so was the peace of the present. She would always carry both, but hope would light the way. Together, Anna and Liam stepped into a new future. Not perfect, not untouched by grief, but richer for every trial and every act of love. This was not the ending she had once imagined, but it was everything they needed: a home remade, a bond reforged, and the promise that tomorrow belonged to them.